Well, how's everybody doing?
Good.
I guess we get started. So thank you for coming to the presentation today. My name is Mfon, Akpan. I am part of the business faculty at Harold Washington College, where I teach a number of business courses, so face-to-face and online. So today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what inspired me to really research and look into what's called virtual reality. Tell you about what it is, what virtual reality is. Give you some reasons why you should use virtual reality in your classroom. And then give some best practice and also a demonstration of how to use it in the classroom. Finally, we'll answer some questions that you may have about it. So, what got me interested in virtual reality was this gentleman here. His name is Scott Showalter. I met Scott Showalter last year at the Accounting Professors Association, our annual meeting. So I was there, and Scott Showalter, this is oddly enough, he doesn't, as far as I know, have anything to do with virtual reality. So what he was doing there was he was giving a talk on how he used a game called Second Life. Has anybody heard of Second Life?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is Second Life?
It's like animated environment where you follow you pick a salad or something,
Right.
Follow it around and through all challenges and all that stuff, to jumps.
Right.
My wife happened to use it in the course.
Yeah.
I have to set it up for her, so that's why I got it.
All of the Second Life. Okay, that's good. That's good. What were you saying about Second Life?
Oh, if my kids told me about it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that people were using it. They use it sometimes in classrooms and stuff.
Right, right. It's a 3D video game. So it's a video game, and what Scott Showalter did, he set this video game up in a warehouse so students, they can play auditing. So while they're playing it, they're doing auditing functions. So then he set this up so students can play the game and they practice the auditing function. So this is called what they call gamification. So he gamified this. So I was so interested in this, and I was thinking while I was listening to him and watching this, I'm thinking, how can I actually have my students get into the warehouse and experience it? So that's really what pushed me into virtual reality. So I came back home from this conference, and I got on Amazon, started buying virtual reality books, bought headsets, camera, started making my own content. And then I decided, you know what? I'm in a big city. This is Chicago. Let me start reaching out to some of these companies. So I actually reached out to some CEOs of virtual reality companies here in Chicago. Talked to quite a few. They helped me a lot. Particularly one of those CEOs, we spent hours talking on the phone, and he pushed me light years ahead in my understanding of the business of virtual reality and also the technical aspects of virtual reality. Now, what is this virtual reality? Virtual reality is a computer-generated scenario. So this can either be man-made or real life. So when we talk about real life, it could be photos, so pictures, or it could be video. Now, it's immersive because you feel like you're inside that scene or inside that environment. That gives it that immersive area. The other part with the virtual reality is that the market for it, the largest market, is gaming. Right? The second is simulation and training. And then the smallest is really education. So there's a lot of opportunity there for this. Oh, I forgot one thing. I forgot to mention this is going to be an interactive session. So if you have your smartphone, take it out. Take out your smartphone, take out your tablet, take out your laptop, because we're going to ask you to go onto your computer. Check it out. So just keep it handy. So, let's think about technology and tech savviness. So I want to ask everybody, when you think about baby boomers, right, baby boomers, what comes to mind when you think about their tech savviness?
Not very big.
Not very much.
Old school.
Old school how? Like,
Well, I mean, you have to.
They're understand basic typing skills of what they learned in typewriting class and stuff like that. Convey that over to the modern technology of basic, your Microsoft suites.
Right.
Or you do have some that are advanced that basically have stayed up abreast with the times and with the advancements in technology. All right, but they, like Chef was saying, they tend to be not as tech savvy as, like you're going to say, with Gen X and definitely the millennials and stuff.
okay.
All right. Now there are some that are obviously light years ahead, and that's where obviously the large portion of this technology is coming from, and the funding behind it's coming from is from those baby boomers who've got the excess income to throw into this type of stuff.
Right. Okay. Good. So that was good. So what about when we talk about Generation X? What do you think about the tech savviness? What are your thoughts?
They're almost on the cusp of leading the charge and stuff. All right. The millennials are the ones that are actually running the thing. All right. They're the ones that grew up in a school where they were working on computers since day one. All right. Your Gen X's, which I am, and stuff like that, are the ones that basically we were transitioning from typewriter class to computer class.
Sure.
All right. We were learning, formats and how to do algorithms. But, you're the generation that's basically running the companies behind the baby boomers who had the capital to invest into it.
Right. Good.
I think
Good.
Gen Xers, when they were using technology, it was mostly business related. So I think most of what they were introduced, it was mostly used on the job, where millennials kind of use it more for a social thing or to gain and things like that, where Gen Xers were using it for business.
Exactly. You're giving the presentation for me. So I was just going to say that. So, and when we talk about, we mentioned about the millennials, I was just going to say that, when you think about the average millennial, they spend 18 hours a day consuming media. So when I first heard it, I'm like, how is this possible?
No way.
I said, well, here's the thing. That's what I said. But
Millennials are sleeping at least 8 to 10 hours a day, though.
But think about this. I said it was no way because it's 24 hours in a day. But there's something called multitasking. Has anybody heard of multitasking?
Yeah.
So you can watch Netflix, that's media. So you can watch a movie, and you can be on your Facebook Live. You can send a text message. You can snap, right? An instant message. You can do all of these things the same time. So that's the multitasking. That's where that comes in. And then where she was mentioning was that you mentioned about millennials and how they use it. So when we actually, and you mentioned this too, when we actually peel back the onion on the tech savviness, right? The older generations are tech savvy with technology for work. So PowerPoint, like right now we're talking about Brightspace, right? Or Blackboard. We're experts on Brightspace and Blackboard. That's technology, right? Versus the younger generation, who are very tech savvy when it comes to more of social media type things. So like Instagram and Snapchat, right? So you said what? Which one?
WhatsApp.
And WhatsApp, right? So those are all forms of media. So this comes to my question. What are the 3 biggest users of peak internet time? 3 biggest users.
Business, education, business.
Internet times? No, you get internet times to be more so like after work days done for the most part. It's gonna be like actually like entertainment, I would assume. All right. I mean, you look at Comcast between 4 and 9 o'clock at night is where you're getting most people jumping on the bandwidth at that point. That's why your service goes down and stuff like that, because all your neighbors are at the same time. All right, because they're either streaming videos from Netflix, Hulu, or they got streaming television.
You gave us one.
All right.
Number 1 is Netflix.
All right.
Number 1.
Social media, Facebook, Twitter.
Good. You're on a roll. Number 2, but to be more specific, it's something called YouTube.
Oh yeah, it does.
That is number 2. Number 3, anybody want to take a guess at that?
Not should be said in the classroom.
It's not that. Number three. Number three is something called Twitch.
Oh yeah, duh.
Who knows what Twitch is?
I do. I was using it all weekend.
What is it?
It's basically, well, for the most part, people are using it for streaming other people playing video games. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like and these people are making huge money. Like this guy, I think Ninja was a guy who just got 10 million followers. Was the first Twitch user to get 10 million followers, something like that.
Yes.
And these guys literally get paid for other people to watch them play video games.
So this is where our students and where this younger generation is. So even if you peel back the onion on YouTube, what do you think some of the biggest YouTubers and what a lot of that traffic on YouTube is going to? People watching people play video games, live streaming themselves play video games, or watching recordings of themselves playing video games. The League of Legends tournament. So they call this video game is called esports. So they were exploring adding this to the Olympics because more people watch esports than they do the NBA finals. That's a fact. So here's the interactive part. So I hope you have your phones out, laptop, your tablet. Go to Google and type in the word Twitch. So let's just take a look at this. Type in the word Twitch. And then click on the website. Take a look around at that and then tell me what you think about it.
It's hilarious. I was using this to bootleg concerts this weekend. And the guy I was watching got taken down for piracy.
Right, because he was broadcasting.
Yeah, he was broadcasting live concerts like that. He got taken down after doing it for 3 weeks.
Right. Does everybody get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take a look at it. Take a look at Fortnite live games. See what this
So
is.
this is all about games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is number 3 as far as internet peak time. So this is where people are.
Yeah, my daughter uses it.
Is on Twitch. Yeah. Probably a lot of your students are watching while they're in class. The big.
Explains a lot.
That's all about that.
So the platform is designed, and it's owned by Amazon. So Amazon purchased this in 2014, almost $1 billion. It's a platform where you can watch people play video games and pay them money.
Why would they watch other people playing games? I mean, I don't see what I mean.
You learn the tricks.
It's hacks.
You learn,
It's hacks. They teach you how to freaking code
how to
break
pass
and stuff like that.
levels.
That's all it is.
Oh,
You know?
I know.
You learn how to break down algorithms and break the code so that you can advance in the game faster than somebody else and stuff. It's like back in the days, we used to buy the magazines to figure out the trick for freaking Super Mario World or something like that. Alright? You used to pay for magazines, nowadays you pay somebody else to teach you how to do these hacks and stuff.
Yeah.
Live for you, right in front of it.
Wow.
So people are making millions of dollars from this. Watching people playing the video games. Anybody else? You take a look. What are your thoughts on it? What do you think about Twitch?
This is the first time I know this. No, now I go home and to watch my son, the maybe.
And give a Snoopy.
Oh, yeah, I think the
No, I see my
I'll tell you
sons
right now,
watching
it's
this,
just-
right, like Korean, right, and they are being watched, right, and they are being paid hundreds of thousands or like by the hour, I think, like, yeah, some of them are being, yeah, I know, I see this, right, and I didn't even know that the word is Twitch, however.
Yes.
So now I know the term, yeah.
And they can chat with each other.
My sons are,
Mhm.
my twins are 22 years old and they are watching this a lot, right? So now I know the term is Twitch.
So you saying that your sons are making money watching
No,
this?
they are not making
Yeah.
money, right? They show me that these players are just by watching it, they're earning money, right? That like, people are watching them play,
Right.
And they are sponsored, yeah.
Right. You're right. You're right. They donate.
They
So
donate
you
money
donate
to them,
money to 'em.
right? Yeah, and yeah. So this is the term switch. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are my twins? Are they millennials? They're 22 years old.
Yes, they're millennials.
Yeah, they're
Millennials?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're right in the heart of it.
Okay. Okay, I get it.
But I mean, you also look at the fact that, like what I was saying earlier, not to cut you off, sorry, but like, you got older generations, like some of the baby boomers as well as some of the Gen X's using that platform to basically pirate like live concerts and other things like that. Like I was watching one of my favorite bands play all weekend for past 2 weeks. I've been on tour, and people have been using that website to basically broadcast their live concerts for free for other people and stuff.
Broadcast and experience. So there was an Uber driver who got in trouble he was in Missouri. So I don't know, is anybody taking an Uber?
Yeah.
So you get an Uber, you know how there's a camera in there. So he was live broadcasting his customers on Twitch. So you were getting in, so people were getting into, now that wasn't illegal in the state of Missouri, it wasn't illegal, but people were upset. How they found out they were on Twitch, I don't know. However, he stopped doing that. He pulled down the live feed. However, to your point, he had the people there, so people were watching other people in an Uber. And he made, I think it was $3,600 from that. People were donating money to support him and him, people watching other people, or experiencing other people in an Uber.
So let's go somewhere with that conversation, because I think I see the gist here. But how would I play into teaching math or physics or chemistry? How does that not come into play?
So when we talk about virtual reality, so very good. So good question. So virtual reality is more immersive than traditional learning. What does that mean? So, and I tie this into mathematics. You can open a math textbook, right?
Yeah.
You can look at the formulas, the equations in the textbook, look at the examples. With virtual reality, you can actually experience it and manipulate the formulas, move them around. That's the difference. Another example, art history, for example. So let's say you've got an art history textbook, you've got a picture of the Mona Lisa, right? You've got the picture. It'll give a description of the Mona Lisa. It's in the Louvre Museum. It'll tell you about the Louvre, right? With virtual reality, you can go to the Louvre. You can walk around. You can look at the Mona Lisa, look at the textures, so you have an experience. It's not the same as being there, but you have an experience with that item.
It kind of, but it has not yet connected me to me teaching math as my subject of discipline.
Yes.
And then my students are here. I'm trying to see how I can integrate this knowledge into my students, this math stuff.
All right, so let's say you have an equation that says x plus y equals this.
Yeah.
So you can actually set it up in virtual reality for your student to look for where x is, look for where y is, and add it together.
Okay.
Together. So I'm just using that.
I got it. It's basically now.
Yes.
If I may also.
Yeah.
So actually, you've seen the newest app from Apple, okay? They now have a virtual ruler. You can take your phone, you can measure, you can span it across, it will tell you how long the distance was, okay? Now, you can put a student in a virtual reality type thing. If there's a way to link their phone app to that virtual reality, you can tell them, tell me what the square footage of this room is by measuring it, putting it in a virtual reality thing, all right? I've been to several trade shows at McCormick Place. That is the fastest growing thing for designing restaurants and sanitation in restaurants as well as factories, is virtual reality. You put a person into a virtual reality warehouse or factory, and they are supposed to find out where the potential health issues are when manufacturing food there.
Makes sense.
Okay? Now you can do the exact same thing when it comes to a student learning mathematics, or we're learning science. Now we can, science even more so now. Now you don't have to worry about a kid blowing themselves up in the hood. I'm not going to blow themselves up in the hood or make a mustard gas in the hood and kill everybody in the classroom or something like that. But they still get almost a technical hands-on experience of combining things and stuff, and it saves money and reduces waste.
Yeah, that's a good point. So to go to your
Dig it, so you send it to them,
Yeah.
and then for that
Yeah.
water pump.
Yeah.
Go
Then
crazy
you
with
can-
that, measure that water, then give you the dollar.
so I think
Thanks, man.
that was good, and I think another point, so that was great, is that you want to think of this not as media. So you don't want to think of this as watching a TV or a movie. I think to that math point, think of it as an experience. So it's not saying it's better, and the point is it's not better than reading a book. However, let's say you have a math formula. You can look at it in the book. As he was mentioning, the virtual reality, you can actually experience the form. You can move the formula around, move the variables, move things around with the formula so it creates an experience. So it's just different. If that makes
Yes,
sense.
I get it, just I'll play with it. You know, I'm just trying to see how it is. I'll play with it.
And the nice thing about it is now students no longer say, how am I going to use this in the real world?
That's the
Okay.
idea I'm trying to.
If I can use this in virtual reality,
Then
this is how we do it in virtual reality, which is basically a simulation of what you're going to do in reality. Okay, I'm going to be an architect. I can use this math to design this. All right. No, sorry. I didn't
Yeah,
use
but
that.
no. So you're great. You're giving me things to think about too, or to listen to. So another point, because that was a good question. Maybe this ties into it with the experience. So think of University of Illinois. They're medical school. They have 3 medical schools: Rockford, Springfield, and Champaign. Right. So the medical students, they have to practice on what's called a cadaver. And we all know what a cadaver. Right? Those are so cadavers are expensive, right? They're hard to get a hold of, right? And that's a limited, you only have one cadaver you practice. So they've invested in a virtual system where the medical students can virtually practice, right, what they need to do, and they can do that over and over and over again. So it saves money because you don't need as many cadavers. They use cadavers, but not as many. So they have it, it's not the same, but it's that experience that they have. If that makes sense.
And the same thing with nursing. If you go to
Exactly.
you actually go in there, talk to the patient,
That's right.
like, how are you doing today? You type it, he's going to respond. I'm going to find, so I'm going to take your, vital signs and all that stuff. Okay. Then it's going to read it out, and then you're going to read it back to the patient, and then you're going to say, okay, what am I doing? Am I doing fine now or not? So it's very interactive. If you go, it's really, because like the one in Chamberlain, I used it while I was helping my wife. So I get to know it's very, very, and then you got to move. You got to find a way of moving from one spot to another. This
is great. You guys are moving right to you're doing the presentation for me. So it is interactive. And the example that I can think of was maybe, because you mentioned a trade show. So about almost a month ago, I was at the Chicago XR, which is like this trade show. So the local virtual reality companies, they come together, and then people who are really enthusiastic about virtual reality can meet with them and see what they're doing. So I had the opportunity to experience a commercial. So this is a virtual reality commercial from McDonald's. So this was created by a Chicago virtual reality advertising agency called NextNow. So I used what they call an HTC Vive headset. This is the top of the line, one of these goggles that are tethered to a computer. They had that there. I put it on, and now McDonald's sponsors a NASCAR drive. Is everybody familiar with NASCAR, car racing? So they sponsor a NASCAR drive. So I put this thing on. Now on the outside, there's a monitor like this, so everyone else can see what I'm doing inside this virtual world, and I'm timed. So this is the interactive part. So when I put this headset on, I'm actually in the pit. You know where the cars pull over? I'm in the pit on the track. Thousands of people are in the stands. You hear the crowd, see everybody moving. You look around, you see the other crew members. They're standing there looking at you. And then the driver comes up and says, hey, listen, the car's about to come in. You got to change the front and back tire, and you got to give the driver a Big Mac. So I'm like, okay, the next thing you know, this NASCAR car comes in, it's loud, it drives in, I jump back, it pulls in front of me, And then I'm unscrewing the bolts. I take off the tire, put it to the side, there's a stack of tires, I grab the tire, do that for the front and the back tire. Then I'm standing there because the car's not going anywhere. The crowd is roaring. The guys over in the pit, they're looking at me. Then I hear a voice from the outside world, give the driver the Big Mac. So I had to go on a shelf with the Big Mac, pick up the Big Mac, give it to the driver, and then the car takes off. And then I'm done. You see, so that's the whole interactive portion, like you were saying, because the environment is really interacting with you and you're interacting with the environment. And if you don't do anything, nothing's going to happen, right? Nothing will move forward. So that was interesting. So when we talk about, and this is a big one with education, is knowledge retention. Knowledge retention. So I was able to come across research from China. And the research that was done was in a physics class. So it's a physics class, 20 students. So what the instructor did is split the students up. So he had 10 students who took a traditional PowerPoint physics lecture. Then he had another 10 students that used that high-end headset I was talking about, that HTC Vive. They had 3 of those. They had a virtual lecture. So what happened immediately after the lecture, he had the students take assessments. So what was found out was that the group that took the immediate test, the average score of the students who had the virtual test was 27.4% higher than the students who did the traditional test. So they said, okay, we'll come back 2 weeks later, give you a test. Found out the students that had the virtual, the headset lecture or experience scored 32.4%. Right? That's that. I mean, that's great. Now, the disclaimer that I have is, and the question when I saw this data, is that experience the same if you're using a high-end device versus a lower-end device, or your cell phone? So that I don't know. So I give that disclaimer. Then the other question, that's in physics. Would that be the same thing if it was mathematics or accounting, business, or another course? So that leaves that to question. So that was interesting. So that's a research topic right there. You need to figure that out. Now, as far as virtual reality, we all talked about it. It's here, right? So really, the future is now. What's driving this is our smartphones, what everybody has here. The majority of smartphones are able to actually view this virtual videos and technology. And one thing that's called a 360 video, which is a virtual video, that's really leading the charge for virtual reality. And to go to what we were talking about before, that 360 video, as far as your feeling or experience, is kind of on the lower end of the scale versus what we were talking about, that headset connected to a computer is more of the higher end of the experience, where you're actually, really there almost. So now, any thoughts or questions with this? 360. So some of the best practices that I came up with, incorporating this in the classroom. 1, you want to be accessible. 2, straightforward. 3, realistic. So what does that mean? So when you talk about accessibility, it's just that. The 95%, they're using their smartphone, right? So when you're designing content, I would not recommend to design content for an HTC, for a headset that's connected to a computer. Keep in mind, the majority of users have a smartphone. The other great thing about that keeps the burden off of your students. They don't need to buy any goggles. They don't need to have any excess equipment. However, if they do, they can scale up and still use the material. The other one is being straightforward. So I'd approach it as if you were making a YouTube video. What do I mean by that? I wouldn't make a 60-minute virtual lecture. I would keep it to the length of time that you would make a YouTube video. And my rule of thumb with that is about 4 minutes. And that's, yes, sir.
Do you know if there's been any discussions, maybe even like on a district level or a college level, where they said, we could see investing in a virtual reality lab and find out, if you think equipment like that, imagine that equipment is costly, that would be something that'd be covered like under Perkins and stuff like that.
Right. There are schools that have their own virtual reality labs. Many of them have these deal with gaming and game design, and the students, they learn, there's a program called Unity. I don't know if anyone heard of Unity. That's a very popular 3D design program, so they have a lot of students test those out. But many times, you're right, many schools have them. At this time, this is the good thing about this. Many of the high-end systems are very costly. However, now the cost is continuously going down.
Sure, just like 4K TVs,
right? Exactly. So it's going down. But a lot of my colleagues who talked about having those to go into the flip side. So it's very good to have it. The flip side was that the pushback they received was due to the fact that the technology is changing. So then the concern would be, okay, we make this big investment, but then a year later, that's obsolete. So they get some pushback on that as well. But very good question.
Is there any cheap way online that we can, kind of like manipulate?
Yeah. So right, exactly. So that's what I was going to get to. As far as what I use are the 360 video. Bless you. I use the 360 videos. So what I do, and it worked. So I hope it pops up good. So what I do, I use the 360 videos and record lectures. So record the lecture, and what it does is that initially my mind frame was, okay, I can record certain portions for my online students or for blended. And then I'm thinking about it, really we're using a learning management system. So our class is what they call web enhanced. So a lot of the students are still they're going online just like the blended students, just like the online students. They're going online to check things. So why not have that there as well? So just to give you an example of something, and I think this may tie into your question about mathematics. What this is, so first of all, what this is a 360 video. So this is a 360 video. So when we talked about the levels of the virtual reality, they call that immersion, right? So that Oculus Rift or that HTC Vive, that's the highest level, right? It's like you're there, you're in the experience. And then the lowest level is something what they call the 360 video. And a majority of people either have used these inadvertently, and when I say inadvertently, if you're going to buy a car, if you go online to buy a car, usually you're going to have a 360 view of the car. That's virtual reality. Or let's say you're going to rent an apartment, buy a house, they give you a 360 tour of the house. So this is similar. So this is where I talk about accessibility, meaning a majority of people have access to something like this easily. So the good thing about it is you can move around. There's the chalkboard. Balance sheet is one of the three. Keep starting it. Primary. You can stop it, move around. So in this one, I focus, and if you notice, it's about 3 minutes. So I normally 4 minutes is my limit, so it keeps me to one topic. So in this case, I'm talking about the balance sheet. Write something on the board, I have it there, students can look at it, it's the key points of it. And this is great, especially the online students, they can move around, they feel like it's not the same thing. So not the same thing as being in the class, but it creates an experience, if that makes sense, of being in the classroom, right? And the good thing is, so the online students can take a look at this, you can move it around, you can listen to it, you can pause it. So you, the student, or the person using this, is in control. So they can move around to what they want. So if they want to pause this and look at this, they can. If they want to
financial statement,
Keep going.
income statement, balance sheet.
See what I'm
statement
doing.
of cash
Even see what I look like. See what the
Now, balance
classroom
sheet
looks like.
also
So they have a type of
known as
experience.
The statement of financial position. So it's also known as the statement of financial position. So we're going to talk some more about what makes up the.
So I'm gonna actually, it's 2:37, I wanna be respectful of the time. So I'm gonna kind of stop it here, and if there's any questions or anything you'd like to ask or talk about.
Okay. So
Yes.
what kind of camera are you using then?
Very good. I use, and I have it here, I use what's called a Gear VR. So it's a Samsung camera. So it's a Samsung camera. This is the camera. Hey,
How much is it for?
this was around 200.
So while you were recording it, so it's automatically our
Good question.
yeah, like
So the process is, so it's very interesting. So there was a learning curve. And the reason why I say that there's a learning curve because one, it's different than recording like a YouTube video because you're always there. You're always going to be somewhere in the shot. And then the other thing is the perspective. So you have to think about where you're going to have the camera. I normally have it in the front, so whoever's looking at it, it's like they're in the front row of the class.
yeah.
So you have to think about that. Now it tethers to your smartphone. So you can control that if you want with your smartphone. And what I learned to do to save time was that I tether it to my smartphone, I can record, and it goes straight to what's called YouTube. YouTube, you can send it to Facebook, what have you, and it stays there, and you can edit.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a picture. That's so cool.
So you can, so once I have it up there on YouTube, I can download it to what's called an MP4 file, and then I put it in an editor. And then from the editor, I can edit it, and then I can throw it back on YouTube. So I prefer to use YouTube. Again, most of the students are using YouTube. It can be easily accessed on the what? Smartphone, right? Because most people access the internet on what? Smartphone, right? So they have easy access to it. They can look at it. It's easily integrated. And then the good thing is I can take that video and post it in Blackboard or in D2L in the announcements, and it's there. So the students, when they go in there, they can go on their smartphone, click on it, look at it. The experience is it's different looking at it here on the desktop versus, let's say, looking at it. These are Google. I don't know if anybody's seen a Google Cardboard headsets.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So the experience is different with this Google Cardboard headset. It takes it to another higher level. Because you put your smartphone in here and hold it, and it's like you're in the room.
Like a Viewmaster.
Like a Viewmaster.
But it came up numerous times when your subscribers for free.
Yeah, they give it a
Oh my God, it was incredible, man.
Yes.
You see, go do like a tour of active volcano and stuff.
Yeah.
You do a tour of the Louvre and stuff. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So you can access. Oh, thank you. If the students, if they want to spend these are about $10, right? So the experience is different than if you're looking at it on a computer or desktop or tablet. Same thing if you have your smartphone, the experience is different because you're holding your smartphone, you can move around and hold it as if you're moving around in the room. So I think it goes back to that whole, yes sir.
Oh, no, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Have you found out if Google would by any chance do a discount rate for educators if we bought like bulk?
That I don't know. Okay. That I don't know.
And the other question is, have you found a free or affordable website for designing your own VR, like alternate reality type cartoonish software that we could use?
There is Unity. So Unity, but here's the thing. So you can do the 3D modeling, and this is only from my personal experience. There's Unity, which is the most. You can use it for iOS, for Android, for the iOS. You can use it for different systems. However, to get things to move around in there, you need to know C#. You have to do some programming.
Okay.
C#. So you gotta know C#. So Unity's the engine that makes you can design different things, you can create the room, but to have things move around, you use C#. Now there are other programs that I've heard of where you can actually move things around and create your own app. How that works, I don't have first-hand experience. I have first-hand experience with Unity.
Okay, all right,
So that was a good question.
thank you.
This was great. Any other thoughts, questions? Well, thank you very much.
C# Raspberry Pi. Jeff.
Oh, man.
Look forward to Samsung.
Double the chef.
Samsung Gear 360. And you know, when I bought it, like I said, I got it. It was totally brand new. And I just want to stop this.
Yeah, I want to